If you can play this piano, I'll adopt you." The millionaire's words dripped with mockery, pointing at the little black boy, but what came next would leave everyone speechless. Before we dive in, take a moment to tell us where you're watching from and what time it is in your part of the world. Also, don't forget to strike that like and subscribe. The ballroom gleamed under the chandeliers, their crystal facets catching the light as though they had been polished for this very moment. Around the grand piano, a crowd of wealthy guests stood in their finest silk gowns and tailored tuxedos, glowing in the warm, golden light. But amidst all this luxury, one figure stood out, someone who clearly didn't belong. A small 10-year-old black boy, wearing a worn gray shirt tucked beneath a stained apron. His trousers hung off his thin frame, patched at the knees, and the yellow gloves still covering his hands told the story of someone meant for menial work. His face, slick with sweat, carried more nervousness than pride. He had been cleaning the marble floors when a burst of laughter echoed from behind him. "Look at him," a man in a white suit snickered, his champagne glass nearly spilling. "The help's kid lost in the wrong place." The boy stiffened, holding onto his mop as if it were his only protection. His mother had always told him to stay out of the way, to be invisible. But there was no hiding now. A tall, blonde woman in a striking royal blue dress, commanding attention effortlessly, stepped forward. Her heels echoed sharply on the marble as she came to a stop in front of him. A smug grin spread across her face, which soon morphed into full-on laughter, drawing the entire room into her mockery. "Oh my God!" she exclaimed loudly, pointing directly at him, ensuring every eye in the room was locked on the boy. "How charming!" They allowed the janitor's son into the ballroom. The laughter hit harder than a slap. The boy lowered his head, barely whispering, "I was just cleaning." "Cleaning?" she repeated, clutching her stomach as if the very idea was absurd. "Sweetheart, you don't clean a ballroom during a party," she sneered, her words dripping with disdain. "You really don't have a clue, do you?" He longed to explain that he was just following orders, that he hadn't realized the event had already begun. But the words caught in his throat. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp and overwhelming, eyes gleaming with mockery. "Tell me, boy, have you ever even touched a piano this fine?" she sneered. "Or do you just clean the wood around it?" Behind her, another woman in a satin dress added, "Maybe he uses the keys as a washboard." The crowd roared again. The boy's hands clenched into tight fists inside the rubber gloves, his ears burning with shame. He had heard insults before, from strangers on the streets, from people who saw his mother cleaning, but never this loud, this humiliating. The woman in blue tapped the piano surface with her perfectly manicured nails, producing a sharp, taunting clink. "This piano costs more than your entire family will ever see," she sneered. "It's for music, not for people like you to touch." He gazed at the polished wood, his chest tightening. Once, years ago, he had touched keys like these, back when his mother used to teach in a small rented studio. Before debt. Before eviction. Before she became the maid. None of these people saw him as anything more than dirt. To them, he was invisible, just a shadow in the background. The woman tilted her head, savoring every moment as he shrank under her gaze. "What's wrong?" she taunted. "Cat got your tongue? Or do you only know how to clean floors?" Her harsh words ignited the room. A man in a brown tuxedo laughed and called out, "Maybe he can play a song with the mop handle." More laughter followed, fueling the cruel spectacle. The boy's throat tightened, his mouth dry. He wanted to flee, but his legs refused to move. The humiliation wrapped itself around him, feeding their amusement. The woman, basking in her power, straightened her posture, her voice ringing out to the far corners of the room. She pointed at him again, her laugh rising like a bubbling champagne. "How about this?" she said, her smile wicked. "Let's make it interesting. If you can play this piano, really play it, I'll adopt you myself." The room gasped, then erupted into laughter even louder than before. Some clapped as though she just told the funniest joke. Others whispered in mock disbelief, pretending to wonder if he'd even deserve such an offer. The boy's heart hammered in his chest. Adoption. The word stung, a cruel reminder of how little they saw him. It was as though he were an object to be discarded, not a boy with a mother who worked tirelessly just to keep him fed. The anger burned in his chest, but the laughter drowned out the feeling. The woman crossed her arms, her smirk widening, eyes gleaming with cruel delight. "So, what's it going to be, little cleaner?" she sneered. "Show us something or admit you're nothing but a floor scrubber." His eyes flickered between her mocking grin and the gleaming piano keys. His hands shook. The room held its breath, waiting for his shame to spill out. In that suspended moment, silence felt heavier than anything else. "Well," she pressed, her voice like ice. "Play or admit what you are." The boy swallowed hard, his hands trembling. Slowly, he peeled off his yellow gloves and stuffed them into his apron. His bare fingers hovered over the keys. The crowd snickered at the sight. "Look at him, he's actually serious," one man scoffed. "This should be entertaining," another woman murmured, her voice laced with mockery. The boy shut his eyes, shutting out the cruel voices. For a brief moment, the grand ballroom vanished. Instead, he found himself in a dim, humble room, his mother beside him, her gentle voice guiding his trembling hands. "Don't just press the keys, son. Let them speak. Feel them." Hesitant, his fingers brushed the keys. A single note emerged, soft and fragile. The guests laughed, but he didn't stop. His hands moved again, slower but with more intent. The laughter began to fade as the melody grew, steady and filled with raw emotion. The boy's back straightened. He wasn't playing for them or their mockery. He was playing for his mother, for the countless hours she spent teaching him, before life had taken it all away. The room, once buzzing with cruel laughter, was now still. The notes swelled, their unexpected beauty filling the grand hall. The woman in blue lowered her hand, her smirk fading. She hadn't anticipated this. None of them had. By the time his hands landed on the final chord, the laughter had died completely. The silence that followed was thick, almost sacred. Then, from the back of the room, a voice broke the stillness. "Eli." The boy snapped his head up. His mother stood at the door, her maid's uniform slightly disheveled, her face etched with worry. She rushed forward, pushing past the stunned guests, until she was at his side. Placing her trembling hands on his shoulders, she whispered urgently, "I told you to stay in the service quarters." Her eyes flicked around nervously at the silent crowd. Her eyes flicked to the woman in the blue dress, and she quickly lowered her head. "I'm so sorry, madam," she stammered. "Please forgive him and forgive me. There's no one at home to watch him tonight. I had no choice but to bring him. He insisted on helping with the cleaning, but I should have stopped him. Please have mercy on us." The boy's chest tightened as he listened. She wasn't defending him. She was begging for their forgiveness for both of them. The woman in blue, still shaken by the unexpected performance, tilted her head. She struggled to find her words, but before she could speak, a man in white murmured, "That wasn't luck. That was skill." Another guest added quietly, "He played better than any hired musician I've ever heard here." Whispers spread like wildfire. The boy stood there, still and quiet, gripping his mother's hand, his heart pounding in his chest. The blonde woman forced a laugh, but it sounded brittle, empty. "Well, maybe the boy has some hidden talent," she said, her voice less certain. "But don't forget, I promised that if he could play, I'd adopt him. And I don't go back on my word." Gasps rippled through the room. The boy's mother paled, her face stricken with shock. "No, please," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "He has a mother already. He is my son. I brought him because I couldn't leave him alone. I work here to take care of him. He belongs with me." The guests shifted uncomfortably. The arrogance that had fueled their laughter just moments before now felt cruel, even shameful. An older man in a gray suit broke the tension. "Enough, Victoria. This is no longer a joke. You mocked that boy and he proved you wrong. Let's leave it at that. Victoria, the woman in blue, froze, her face reddening with shame. She had sought to degrade a poor child, not be called out in front of her peers. But the weight of their stares forced her to retreat, her smug smile finally disappearing. The boy held tightly to his mother, who gently ran her fingers through his hair, murmuring softly, "You did nothing wrong, Eli." Nothing. For the first time that night he believed her. As the guests murmured among themselves and began to leave, the boy and his mother quietly made their way toward the servants' entrance. His fingers still tingled from the touch of the keys. He had stood tall, enduring their mockery, their laughter, their scorn, and turned it into silence. He was no longer just the maid's son. He was Eli, a boy who had made the entire room listen. And for his mother, that was all that mattered. If you were touched by this story, don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more moving, dramatic, and unexpected tales. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.